Okay, we're back, and I'm wearing a headset now. So sorry about the distortion previously. We're not actually sure what happened, but we can jury rig a fix because we have knowledgeable people running things, and we're ready to go. So we're still waiting for the end of round 2 before we get started again. But I'm here with Julian Knob, sorry, and I'm going to take. So I teased the teaser only because we ran out of time, but I want to talk a little bit about how the future of the NRG online, which is now going to constitute more of a series. We've been having one-off events up through now, and we are going to start. We have a lot of exciting stuff set up for you guys, and we're going to have the full announcement at the start of Top 8 tonight. But for now, first thing I'm going to say is that we're going to have now for the rest of this year, it's going to be a string of 5 events, alternating between several formats, culminating in a showdown I believe in December. And we'll have more details throughout the day, but I can tell you the date for the next event is September 13th, and we're going to be playing Legacy again. So if you're enjoying watching today, and you want to either watch again or play with us next time, it'll be September 13th. We'll be running another Legacy event, and I believe we'll have the same setup with Card Hoarder that we did this time. So if you're interested in playing, but you either don't have access to a Legacy account or a Legacy deck on Magic Online, then we have a new special weekend deal that was created for us, which is first instituted for this weekend, and a number of players took advantage of it, where you can pay $10 to rent for a 500 credit line for the weekend, or $15 for 850, and you can check out the cards as early as Friday morning, play as much as you want on the weekend. You can swap cards in and out, swap decks in and out, play whatever formats you want, including ours, and then return the cards either Sunday night or Monday morning, whichever you like. And so we think that's a pretty good deal. A lot of people took advantage of it this weekend, and that will be available in our future events as well. And the next one will be, like I said, September 13th, and we'll be playing Legacy. So that's exciting. That's good stuff. And we'll have the rest of the details spread out throughout the rest of the day with the full thing for the Top 8. So thanks for joining us today. We've seen we've seen a few good matches and a few people get blown out by Wastelands and missing their land drops from mulligans, which is always going to happen. We do know one of our decks that we're going to try and watch for next round. So let's go ahead and Julian, talk about kind of what's developed in Doomsday over the recently, because this deck is a lot different than it was several years ago.
Yeah, this deck has been around since forever. Like ever since I got into the format, people have been trying to make Doomsday work. They used to call it like fetch land tenders and everything. And now it's back. It was gone for, I want to say, like at least 5 years, 6 years. But now, ever since Thassa's Oracle, that's a big card that has been printed. That not only does it make the piles a lot easier than they used to be, it also allows you to play around a ton of hate. Because Thassa's Oracle, you're not trying to kill by targeting the opponent or trying anything else. You're just winning the game with a trigger. And the beauty of it is you can even include your Cavern of Souls in the Doomsday pile. So you can even play around like a lot of counter spells. And for those wondering, I guess, if you're, like, I can't even say new to Legacy. If you've entered Legacy in the last 5 years, you might not know what Doomsday does. Doomsday is a card, it's 3 black mana, and it basically used to say one player is going to win in the next couple of turns. It allows you to basically take everything you got, except your sideboard, mash it in together, create a pile of 5 cards, and remove everything else from the game. And that's going to be your library. So you're like, the flavor is palatable. Like the flavor is really there. You're creating a Doomsday scenario, and hopefully you're gonna win. And the beauty of the deck right now is because you don't need a lot of like setup spells and everything. You can really dedicate to running Force of Wills. You're gonna have Dazes. You even have like some main deck interaction, like I see here, Abrupt Decay. So the deck is quite resilient. And a lot of times you don't even know that you're playing against Doomsday unless you know the pilot or there's like some tells by the way they fetch, but that's sometimes hard to spot. So the deck really is like a control deck almost that has a combo finish. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said there. Yeah, it's deceptive now in that they're able to conceal what they're playing. And years ago, the deck was more like a Storm deck with a different kill condition. Now it runs a lot of interaction, and it's a nuisance to play against. And then to top it off, their win condition is often uncounterable. So this deck can really do some. It's going to be hard to play against this deck. One aspect of Doomsday that we should mention is that in addition to what Julian said, you lose half your life when you cast it.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a significant drawback. But yeah, it's Ritual at Doomsday is early as turn 1, and this deck can assemble wins early in the game, and its cantrips that it uses to dig through the pile are not blue. So conceivably, even though we have a majority blue deck with a blue win condition, we could have turn 1 Dark Ritual into Doomsday, and then turn 2 play some non-blue cantrips and win with a blue card that you can't counter. So this deck can be very hard to play against, and I can have no trouble at all believing that it's kind of fearsome in the metagame right now.
Yeah, I almost want to go as far as to say that this deck is one of the tier 1 decks right now. It still requires a certain level of sophistication when it comes to crafting the piles. The big thing that the deck tries to beat is Stifle, because Stifle basically kills you as a kills your trigger that gives you the game win, and then you run out of cards. There's ways around that. You either play more discard or you try to counter. There's versions that play main deck Pyroblast, and after sideboarding even more Pyroblasts, which can be annoying. Something that people in the past used to do was to surgically extract the Doomsday, because after Doomsday is resolved, Doomsday goes to the graveyard, so you have a target for your surgical. So the 5 cards that are in the deck, they get mixed up randomly by the surgical. That's not as devastating anymore, because you're not relying on getting the cards in the exact same order. Usually that involves Lions or Diamond and stuff. Now all you need to just need to get those cards. And since you have 2 shufflers, two cyclers, Street Wraith and Edge of Autumn, you're getting pretty deep into your deck pretty quickly. Sometimes you even have a fetch land in play, so you can put an Underground Sea into the pile, and then you basically your 5-card pile turns into a 4-card pile. Then you cycle 2 cards in, it's a 2-card pile, and it gets really easy to get all the cards you want.
And you're right, it's much simpler to play. Not to say that it's easy, but it's more straightforward than it used to be. I played Doomsday back in 2010 at one of the first big Legacy events I went to, and I had a sheet of notes of different Doomsday piles for different scenarios that I was trying to and this was the absolute perfect example of a player trying to get by without knowing how the deck actually worked, and just by going off other, it was like a sideboard guide times 1,000, and it doesn't work. You can't do that. I struggled all weekend long because I'm trying to remember things that I don't actually understand, and that's just a bad way to go. So we do have the opponent now for the Doomsday deck. So can we look at this deck list? It's 4-color Snowko, played by Patrick Green. We have a Snow deck, not Delver deck again, and some control elements. So similar to what Justin Porches we saw Lost with earlier against the Isochron Scepter deck. Not that that's relevant at all to this match. I just like saying that we saw an Isochron Scepter deck. But here we have Uros, Nokos, we have card advantage, we have removal, we have counters. This looks like a deck that would be reasonably okay against a combo deck, but I'm not sure if this is well set up to deal with the Doomsday deck.
Yeah. This has 5 cards, maybe 6 that really matter in the first game, in the pre-board game. You've got 5 counter spells, and I guess the Thoughtseizes. The big thing is that your clock is not going to be a thing. I guess you got to get your Uro going, or I'm not even sure if that's faster than Oko. It could be. But if you're just trying to grind them out, that's probably not going to do it. I guess Chase can be a big deal, because Chase is going to give you access to more counter spells as the game proceeds. But it's going to be rough. You have a lot of all your removal is pretty much that. There's rare scenarios where you try to use the is it called Devotion of the Thassa's Oracle, which basically mills you for however many blue things you have. If you kill that, then maybe sometimes you get to win the game randomly. But if the Doomsday deck is given enough time to set up, it's really only going to be the 5 counter spells that are going to matter. Yeah,
I mean, in scenarios like this, the Doomsday deck probably has more counters than the control deck.
That's true.
Which makes things really tough. And then we do have there is a singleton back to basics in this Snow deck, which open deck list makes less powerful, but we do see Underground Sea to start with here, so maybe it will still come into play.
There's also Shark Typhoon in there, which is a card that has produced its own kind of control deck in Legacy. I like it as a one-off in here. Maybe that's actually going to be your key to victory. Shark Typhoon, and then Force of Will twice to get 10 power into play.
Maybe. I mean, that's pretty slow. But you mean hard cast it and pitch? Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't understand what you were saying at first. So we saw that Ponder that shuffled since we saw both of our Thassa's Oracles, which isn't going to do any good at all for the Doomsday deck.
This is already rough. At this point, we're really only trying to find Doomsday now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we won't be finding it for a couple of turns.
No, well, yeah, and we do have.
I guess we got the fetch land.
We do have the fetch land, but yeah, this is definitely. I guess the notable thing that we didn't mention is that the Doomsday deck does require finding and resolving Doomsday. We're spectacularly unlikely to win a game without resolving Doomsday, as I think it would just require drawing the entire deck.
Something that's interesting is if you want to beat the back to basics, you can always, well, if you have a Replicate, right? We don't have a Replicate right now. You could always have your Bayou and another like Black Source untapped to and there's actually a Replicate and the Ideas. So Ideas Unbound is interesting in the sense when I kind of like soft studied the Doomsday deck, and there's Doomsday, it allows you to basically win the game with just 2 mana after Doomsday without using LED or something. And yeah, now we have basically like almost triple protection. Okay, we're going for it. And we have days. Yeah, basically double protection, I guess. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, this is going to be, this looks like, and also, yeah, something else that's, Julie mentioned at the beginning, but it's notable that your combo cards can go to the graveyard, which is fine because Doomsday will then put them back into the deck. So you can survive that. We have a counter war over this Doomsday. We did have a force from both sides, but yeah, with the Doomsday player having another counter available, and we don't really need much left. Doomsday beautifully sets everything else up. Force of negation. Okay, so we're emptying our hands. Well, okay, not quite empty.
That's actually something you can do. Otherwise, you'd be scared to run to like the opponent's Spare Pierce or something. I don't know if the opponent actually has Spare Pierce. I think we didn't see any. And here comes Doomsday. So I guess the way you would set it up here is to have your 2 shufflers. Your 2 cyclers, I keep calling them shuffler. You can't really win on this turn. You have to pass the turn here. So we're going to see this live. Yeah, we're going to get the Cavern of Souls in case the opponent... But I guess we can almost rule out that the opponent has another force.
Yeah,
I can't see the land. If this is a fetch land, then there's a chance that they might draw another force next turn. Right. So might as well play around that.
Well, what would win the game, I think, is if the player went land back to basics. That
land back to basics
would with all of the
I think that still wouldn't do it.
Maybe.
Because you have the Cavern of Souls and the Lotus Petals, so we would just like wait a turn or 2.
Yeah, you are right. We'd have to draw through the cards. We wouldn't be able to actually cast the Ideas Unbound, but it would still be functional. Yeah.
So yeah, the Ideas Unbound makes it so that we can actually just win the next turn. So what are we trying to draw on the opponent's side of the board? We already expect Cavern of Souls, right? I'm not sure if we can actually beat that in the first place.
Right. No, we need, let's see, Thoughtseize isn't going to help. Yeah, and this is tough. This is why it's so hard, because the Doomsday, once it resolves, they can really craft what they're drawing into for what you have. And
they didn't crack their fetch land before draw, so that makes me think maybe they drew something they need. Maybe they think that the back to basics could do it.
So Thoughtseize is going to be of little to no help if that is found. What could? Yeah, I don't know if there is anything.
That's the beauty of Doomsday.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, a counter on the Ideas Unbound will effectively buy 3 or 4 turns. But that's all.
The Doomsday is upon us. It doesn't even matter if they had removal for the Thassa's Oracle because we're exactly out of cards.
Right. I guess if the Lotus Petal gets countered, the game's over.
That's a really good point. Oh my god. If the Lotus Petal gets countered, the game actually is over.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been like this. That would have been the play of the game.
Yeah, that would have been
Forceful Lotus Petal. GG. Oh man, I want to see that. But yeah, prepare for robots as you expect. It takes the first game.
So we can see the sideboarding here. Veil of Summer, very strong against most forms of disruption. And and you can see here why, we're kind of saying the same thing over and over again, but it's just the truth of it is the Doomsday deck, once Doomsday resolves, is very hard to deal with.
I wonder what the opponent's actually bringing in. Can we pull up the deck lists?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Because this one is pretty straightforward. You bring in the Veil of Summers and sometimes just cut some mana. So
Patrick, I believe I think this player Patrick Green. I think won the escape. What's the Legacy Championships at maybe at Gen Con or wherever the event is, the big Legacy Championships every year. That's not like an official Wizards. Eternal Weekend, yes. I think
that's already official now. But yeah, go ahead.
I think Patrick Green won Eternal Weekend a couple of years ago. With Death and Taxes.
Oh, sweet deck.
But anyways,
I think he would bring in like Veil of Summers because there's, like we saw, there's going to be this huge counter fight, and there's also some like discard that you gotta dodge. I could see bringing in Narset. That's probably better than a lot of decks that we have in the main deck. Deafening Silence, maybe. Like the beauty of Deafening Silence is if they cast Doomsday and then you cast Parsifal, they're not countering back. Right. The Doomsday is just gonna like go to the graveyard. So there's a world where Deafening Silence can help you with that.
It also can screw up the actual the post Doomsday development. Also can be messed with.
Yeah, it's probably gonna buy you at least a turn, right?
Yeah. No, that seems okay. Carpet of Flowers seems okay. Veil of Summer seems okay. So we know we don't need the Swords of Plowshares. We don't need the removal. Do you think, are we mostly looking at here trying to defend their combo? Do we even have to try and win the game from the Snow side?
We have to put up some kind of clock, right? Because if they get to craft the perfect hand and cast for Doomsdays eventually, I could see taking out, like, I don't hate, it's so hard. Like, the Icefang Codals allow you to keep up mana, but I'm not even sure if your deck has that many counter spells that they actually pay mana for anyway.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking that too, that maybe the Icefangs can go out. Okay, so chat does correct me that Peter did win the Eternal Weekend, but it was with Miracles, not with Death and Taxes.
Another heavily white deck, I guess. Lots of planes.
I don't know about heavily white, but okay. So we see Thoughtseize here into... I mean, this is the turn you'd want it. Otherwise, the Veil of Summer would pick it off, and we do take the Veil of Summer. So the exchange is the same exchange would have happened otherwise, except that Doomsday doesn't gain a card in the trade-off. You see the Edge of Autumn drawn there. That's an unusual card to see in a deck. It's a sacrifice a land to draw a card, or it cycles by sacrificing a land to draw a card. And the reason that's there is it's just another way to, as an uncounterable card draw in the middle of Doomsday stack to just advance further into the deck. Just like
it's actually also quite annoying if your opponent, like if you try to wasteland them and then they Edge of Autumn away the land, you feel so bad.
Yeah. Now, what would be something is if we actually we do have green mana sources in the deck. We could actually cast the card. I would imagine that doesn't happen very often, but
it's true. The Nihil Spellbomb. So what is the Nihil Spellbomb actually gonna do? It gives you an extra card draw. So, it's kind of like a last resort thing. When you got nothing to bring in, you can bring in something that draws a card. I'm not sure you actually have that many cards to side out to bring it. And because strategically, I don't really see a use for it. There's versions of Doomsday that try to not exhume. What's the one that gets a creature into play from the graveyard?
Unearth is what you're looking at for.
Unearth, that's the one. That's the one that allows you to play around Meddling Mage and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's not really needed here because we already know that they don't have Unearth. So we will see how they're going to use the Nihil Spellbomb.
It does prevent the use of, so for example, the Street Wraith and the card we just saw, the Edge of Autumn. Those are cards that you could normally would be able to use and then just put back in the deck from the Doomsday itself. If you did use them here, you couldn't get them back. So that would kind of diminish what you're capable of post-Doomsday. But, that's about the best I could think of. It's not going to actually interact directly with what's going on.
Yeah, and I guess you could hope to Thoughtseize both. I can't pronounce the card. The Oracle, and then but I guess that's not really doing it. And there's the Doomsday, and we have double protection for it again. Oh.
Yeah, this is and boy. Now, so this time, is there a potential of winning this turn? Because we do have, we can go Ritual Doomsday, and we can get into the pile. So that's always the thing is, can we get into the pile this turn? When we have the Preordained, so we can actually we can get into the pile and still have double counter backup. But in that,
can get into the pile and have one mana
right.
up. which could get Brainstorm, which gets us something like LED and I guess a little Lotus Petal.
If you go into like Lotus Petal, Street Wraith, and then dig back in, I don't know. That's the point. This is the point you reach in playing Doomsday, where study pays off and experience, because we can go Ritual Doomsday, but you have to know what to do after that. So here we're gonna have force pitching. So I'm a little interesting that we're just not Flusterstorming there.
I guess he's still waiting. Okay. The thing about Flusterstorm, of course, is your Flusterstorm can be countered by Veil of Summer, so you try to get your opponent to Veil of Summer first, and then you Flusterstorm. Yeah. So now we're crafting the perfect pile again.
Also notable that we fought over the Dark Ritual, not over the actual Doomsday.
Yeah, that at this point you could almost tell, like, Prepare for Robots was like, hey, maybe I'm just gonna let this Force of Will resolve, and then I'm gonna try later on because I know I can like outgrind you. But he felt strong enough to just go for it here. And okay, he's hovering his mouse over a fetch land. Maybe that's just accidental. Cavern of Souls.
Getting a fetch land and a dual land is a way to thin an extra card out of the pile.
Okay, we're getting a predict here. So this is probably going to be a pass the turn pile the way I see it.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a world where you try to use Thatha's Devotion. So you draw into... But you're only going to draw into one extra card, right? And you want the Thatha and the Cavern, and you're not going to get both unless... I guess you could do it with predicts.
Well, yeah, the Thassa just scries. It doesn't draw, but you can help set up. But yeah, so conceivably, if we don't think there's removal, we could actually try and win with 2 cards left in the deck.
Yeah, but it's scries, but if it's scries for more than what you have left, you win. That's why I was saying that.
Right. Yeah. So and that's why it works as long as there's no removal to kill it. Yeah. Which, Swords of Plowshares is almost certainly not there, but maybe Abrupt Decay is. Although if it is, it might pick off the petal right there, and we don't see that. Chat suggests that maybe we need to sideboard Ashiok in Legacy, which would allow the milling here. When milling would win the game. Deafening Silence could also potentially win the game, or at least slow it down a lot.
Yeah, we would have needed that one turn earlier. But yeah, we didn't have that. So let's see. I guess we can just sit back and eventually cast Thassa, and there's really nothing the opponent can do to interact at this point. They don't have Stifers. They don't have a way to mess up your library. So the only thing that the opponent could hope is that Prepare for Robots set it up in a way that they draw the Thassa, so we can Thoughtseize that away. Unless, like, if it's the last card in the library, then we can't do that. But if they set it up in a way that's at least that's a game plan, right? That you couldn't come up with.
Yeah, at least we have slowed things down considerably here. We're not going to die this turn, which we likely would have otherwise. So that's something. Okay, the Predict fires off right now. I believe Abrupt Decay is the card on. I'm not sure what the actual order was.
Interesting. Okay, I guess Never Chat actually points it out. By the way, a real master of Doomsday here in the chat. You can still cast like your setup spell and Thassa on the same turn because Deafening Silence still allows you to cast multiple creatures.
Okay.
So that's something. So we're trading for the Force here, and I guess that means we just pass.
Right. Well, we have to pass now because we are the Deafening
Interestingly,
Silence.
That puts it on the bottom of the library, which makes the library bigger again. I wonder if that's going to actually come up now.
What? I'm sorry. What went on the bottom of the library?
The Ideas Unbound is put on the bottom of the Doomsday player's library because of the Force of Negation.
No, it gets exiled.
Oh, exiled? Oh, you're right. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so now we're seeing Snapcaster Mage on Thoughtseize. Okay, this is, well, taking the Preordain will, again, slow the march through the last... I guess, Peripheral What's the Doomsday player is at 9 because of the massive life loss from playing Doomsday. So maybe the Snapcaster Mage and something else can race, but that seems...
So what's left in the library? We know about the Cavern, we know about one Cycler, and we know about the Thassa. So next turn, they could go for it. And we just gotta have a bigger offense because we're not stopping the Oracle at this point.
Right. So how could we win here? Okay, so if the win is gone if the Oracle would have to not be on the bottom of the deck for that to happen.
Yeah. I guess there's a world where we abrupt decay the Lotus Petal and then somehow deal with the Underground Sea, but I don't think we actually have Wastelands.
Right.
So at this point, we draw the Oracle or the Cavern, depending on how they set it up. We're going to find out. So there's the Oracle. Okay.
So Abrupt Decay wins the game here. Abrupt Decay. Oh, it's not there. Unsurprisingly, as all that Peter had was the one card from the cantrip of the creature. But yeah, so that was Doomsday doing its thing, and it's a deck that's, I mean, hard to deal with. I've said it a few times already, and it's just true. It's hard to deal with that deck.
That was actually an interesting point. I was wondering whether you would cast the Oracle there or not, but if you don't cast it, you're actually exposing yourself to losing to a discard spell.
Right.
So you got to make the call. I think that's probably like the more likely call for them not to have Abrupt Decay, assuming they already sided out a bunch of those. And it's more likely they're going to have like another discard spell or something. So I like the play. And Doomsday, yeah. I think one of the reasons that Doomsday is so good is that it gets to ignore a lot of the Oko and Uro stuff that's going on in the format right now, especially in the first game. And that's what's just happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's you're looking at your deck list and you're like, well, I have 6 cards to bring in and 15 I want to take out. That's a bad spot to be in, and I think a lot of people, that's a scenario they're in when playing against something like Doomsday. And it also leads to, so I lost to Doomsday a couple times playing on Magic Online in the last few weeks, and I actually switched, and this is very stupid, I don't recommend it. I switched my Graveyard Hate from Surgical Extraction to Noxious Revival, so that, because against Reanimator, it's basically the same thing, but you can interact with the Doomsday pile by throwing an extra card on top of it and attempting to screw them. It has not worked yet, unsurprisingly, but you got to come up with different ideas to try and fight decks that are on a different angle than you're used to. Okay, so we have a deck to show. So we're going to bring a deck up. Are we on? I'm sorry, I'm not clear if this is the backup match for this round or if this is a. Okay, we are going to move to a backup match for this round. We have still game 1. Let's go ahead. We are going to bring back Jonatan Ceder and his Jeskai Scepter deck, which we saw briefly earlier in round 1. And so we're gonna show the remainder of this match, what's left over in round 3. But for you who weren't here a couple hours ago, you missed out, as the Possibility Storm Jeskai Scepter deck completely trounced a snow control deck, much to Julian and I's amusement, I must say.
Yeah, this is the crowd favorite, right? Like, everybody's rooting for Jonatan to at least go to the top 8. Because this deck, you would think, okay, this is kind of it almost reminds me of we talked about that, the old Scepter Chant decks, Blue-White Scepter Chant that people played in Legacy in 2005. That kind of deck is not really playable anymore when you have something like Abrupt Decay around. But here's the but. We have Possibility Storm, and we have ways to make them one-sided. We got Lavinia, we got Teferi, Time Reveler, and if you get those 2 down, your card advantage is going to be so much through the roof, and your opponent is also never going to play a spell again as soon as you have your chant going, because you chant on their upkeep, they won't be able to cast anything because of your Teferi, and then they just pass the turn again. So the only thing at this point you have to deal with is whatever they have on board, and I hear blue-white decks are pretty good at doing that, especially if they have Teferi out. So I'm still skeptical about how we're actually going to get the Possibility Storm into play, but once we do, it's going to be an absolutely wild ride. Yeah. Especially if it's going to be 2-sided, as long as we don't have Teferi, which we saw like in the earlier game.
Right. So so this is something else. So let's either go to the other players' deck list or right down to the match. What do we have coming up? Okay, so the other deck is Austin Blackner playing 4-color Snow. So this is. We saw in round 1, and if you're interested in seeing more of this deck, you could jump back in the VOD and watch that. We saw the last few minutes of the match earlier, and last time actually when we watched it, Possibility Storm looked like it had just been cast when we jumped in. Now we're jumped in earlier, and it's being cast again, and I mean, nobody has experience playing against this, I promise. So Austin has
both players still undefeated.
Yeah, both players undefeated. Austin's 2-0 in this event, but he probably, again, is not prepared for Possibility Storm, which is in play. So good luck. I mean, we had a good time with this last time. So let's see.
So this is going to be interesting. So if we decide to use the Force of Negation, there's a chance that we draw, and we can't attack with that. But there's a good chance that we Possibility Storm into another counter spell to hit the original spell. This is Uro just getting the Ice Fang Coda along with it because of the Possibility Storm. That was already around.
No, the Possibility Storm, and I'm learning on the fly. I was just reading the card again. It only affects cards cast from hand, and Uro was cast from the graveyard. Yeah, so it did actually make it into play here. All right.
Now we get two sorceries.
We get who knows what we get? Probably
Storm is loose.
Terminus would be. Oh no! There it is.
That's not the first card you draw. No, but you can still cast it, right?
It doesn't matter.
You can just cast it for free.
Yeah, you get it for free. So this is the first Terminus ever cast, probably for a single blue mana instead of a single white mana as its miracle cost.
Dude, if Ponder did that every turn, I would never play a creature game again.
Now we see Swords of Plowshares finds Abrupt Decay. You see, cards in your hand. The cards in your hand are not what they look like. For example, you see the Force of Negation in Jonatan's hand. That's not a Force of Negation. It's whatever the next instant in the deck is. So he doesn't know if he can fight over a counter or not. if the Swords of Plowshares happen to bring one up, which in this case they did not. Another Swords of Plowshares. Can we find? No. That sword finds another sword. So again, no counter magic.
It would have been interesting to Abrupt Decay your own Uro so you can get it out next turn again. But of course, at that point, you don't know yet whether you're going to find another... Like, if you find a counterspell for the Terminus, then you don't want to Abrupt Decay your Uro. But this is insanity right here.
Yeah.
And it's not going to stop anytime soon, right? Because, Sentai, our Possibility Storm player, doesn't really have anything else going. I guess you could... No, you can't imprint the Force of Negation. It only takes spells converted mana cost 1 or 2.
Well, but see, you're not, it's hard to even understand what's going on here. You're trying to imprint your Force of Negation on Isochron Scepter, but that's not an Isochron Scepter. It's whatever the next artifact is in the deck.
I think he doesn't have any others, but maybe he does. Maybe he's got Astrolapes.
But I'm not sure either. But if there's no other artifacts in the deck, then the Scepter I think is just a blank. Is that right?
I think so, but yeah, I guess we eventually see.
Let's go ahead and bring up Possibility Storm again, because the first 2 times we brought it up weren't enough. Let's read the card again.
Here comes the code.
And so here's a
What's the code we're going to bring?
I think it brought it itself, another copy of itself. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, exile it, and then I exile from the top of the library until you find a shared type. You knew that. That player may be cast for free. Then the exiled cards go on the bottom of the deck in a random order. Yeah. Okay. So, and we see there are actually, we talked earlier when we looked at the deck, there were 3 Mystic Sanctuaries. They're all in play already. So we won't be recurring any spells that actually will turn into other spells anyway.
So it's interesting that we played the Ice Fang Coda at the end of turn because it only works for the first spell we play, right? Or I'm going to play a spell is it for every spell?
I think it's every spell.
Oh my god, this is just crazy. This is just like I literally can't tell you who's winning because this is going to be like such a big swing in either direction as soon as somebody finds a playable card.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's Possibility Storm. Chat is asking. So the idea is that you make Possibility Storm one-sided by either getting Teferi, Time Reveler into play or Lavinia, which basically turns it off for the opponent because you're casting the card that you find at instant speed. And those 2 cards basically stop that because that's either at instant speed or for free, and Lavinia stops the free part, and Teferi stops the instant speed part.
Wow. Okay, so we saw the Isochron Scepter cast, which is a blank because there's no other artifacts, we think. But Force of Negation was cast on the Scepter, which transmogrified into his Swords of Plowshares to kill the Ice Fang Quaddle. Typical everyday turn of a legacy game. If you're a standard player, if you're a pioneer player, and you just came to watch our show to see Legacy today, this happens all the time. Nothing unusual here.
I do that every time in the morning before I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
Easy play. Chat actually points out that the opponent could actually find their own Teferi.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And by find Teferi, you mean you like find Jace and it turns into a Teferi because whatever you find isn't what you find.
it's so crazy that it works for even like creatures and planeswalkers, because like effects like this where you copy something, it often just like works for instant sorceries. But I guess we've seen stuff like polymorph, which allows you to turn one creature into another. But this one actually lets you keep all of them. Oh my god! Like the swords game is just out of control. Like nobody really knows what's going on with swords here.
These are just free cards that turn into there's a brainstorm. Sure.
Keep going. We're gonna brainstorm here. Yeah, we're gonna find something. I'm not even sure who controls the brainstorm at this point.
So what we really want here, what we want is a Planeswalker and a Teferi, so that we can play the first Planeswalker and it turns into a Teferi.
So here's the brainstorm resolving. And this guy is gonna get the award for the most entertaining player already. Already excited.
This is like you're playing a game with your friend, but you decide, okay, every time I cast a spell, I'm going to reach into my collection and take a card at random and just throw it on the board. This is
like the craziest game of EDH I've seen in a while. Yeah.
I think the chat says Okay, Uro.
Oh, there's Uro.
Sure. Now this is unfortunate because if this went to the graveyard, you at least flash it back because cards from the graveyard still resolve normally. But
So now we got more stuff coming. I guess this is the escape.
I don't even know what just happened. If that was escaped, why isn't it on the board?
I think it was played normally, and now we're escaping at this point.
Right, but if it was played normally, why did it not get...
I was wondering too.
Maybe... I'm not sure what happened.
It should actually say in the game log, but maybe we missed something. But right now our Uro player is ahead against the Possibility Storm player, but this could change like in a second.
Yeah. So what happened there? I guess the only thing that could have happened was Uro Possibility Stormed into another Uro. Is what happened. That's how we ended up with one, and now we have Oko into revealing 23 cards and then nothing. It looks like. Yep. Because that was the whole deck, I guess. Okay, so that missed, and a land was drawn, and this is going to be.
Wait, this is actually awkward. If you have no Planeswalker remaining, then how are we actually going to resolve a Planeswalker?
Oh yeah, well we're not going to resolve, but we don't need anything. Right now this Uro is going to take it down all by itself.
That's true, and we already used a lot of sorts of plowshares, I guess.
Yeah, and that's it. Okay, so game one goes to the Snow Control deck in one of the more unusual games that you'll see in any given year. And we see sideboarding now for the Possibility Storm deck. Looks like we're bringing in some alternate win conditions. We're bringing in, a
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Please don't cut the Possibility Storms. No, you're doing it wrong. Okay, that's one remaining.
So Monastery Mentors and Red Blast and Surgical Extractions and Distance. Why? Maybe we're not. Why is Surgical Extraction coming in?
It gets to hit the Uro.
Yeah, you're right. That's Uro. That's significant. Yeah, no, that's very significant.
I guess technically it could also hit your opponent's Teferis. I'm not sure if the opponent actually has Teferi. Yeah.
Let's go to the other deck list real quick since we're looking at this one. Let's bring up Austin Blackner's 4-color Snowko. We do not have Teferis. Okay, so
in the sideboard, that's 2 copies.
Oh, you are right. Okay, there are 2 copies of Teferi in the sideboard. Well, those would be very good. I'm sure they came in alongside. Let's see, what in the heck do we want? I guess we can't just plan on Possibility Storm being in play. Otherwise, we would want all 1-mana instants just to be able to trigger and do any random thing.
I guess Leovold comes in. Like, I think the way you do it is you just treat it as a blue-white control deck. Mm-hmm. And then it has this 5-mana 2-red spell that you fight over most of the time unless you're already super heavily winning on board. So I would bring in your Teferis, your Leovolds, probably your Whales. Depending on how much you can take out, maybe even also your Flusterstorms. The awkward part is Flusterstorm doesn't have Possibility Storm or Planeswalkers, so you want to make sure to have enough initial ways to interact with the Planeswalkers. Mm-hmm. What you can take out here, I guess... Okay, here we go back to the awkward part about sideboarding. When your opponent suddenly brings in a card type that you usually wouldn't interact with, in this case, Mentor, then you're left in the spot where you're do I keep my Abrupt Decays? Do I keep some sorts of Plowshares? And it can only ever like work out evenly or badly for you. So you're never like getting really ahead, and that's the I guess you would take out even the Dread of Winter, right? If your opponent gets to land Mentor and make a bunch of tokens, and you don't have Dread of Winter, then you're not gonna get there with just Abrupt Decays and Swords to Plowshares. So when I'm building a deck and when I'm sideboarding, I'm always trying to make like things super awkward for my opponent. That's what basically Mentor does in this matchup. And since we know that it's coming in, it's awkward. Maybe you even cut like a land or two. Maybe that's crazy. I don't know how many lands that's gonna be, but
yeah, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty here. Starting at the beginning of the match where Austin, gets his pairing and is showing his opponent's deck list, and then you're like, "What is this?" And then you like Google, "Help! I'm playing against Possibility Storm in Legacy," and Google search results return nothing because it's never happened before.
Sorry, couldn't find any results. If you want to submit your own results, click here.
So we do have, let's see, it looks like we started on 6 cards here for Jonatan. Down a game, and Austin has an Astrolabe. So, at this point, this game looks normal.
Yeah, and that's the Mentor. Oh, yeah. I wonder if he's actually going to run out the Mentor immediately on the third turn, because you can't really count on protecting those red Elemental Blast from a counterspell because you don't have that yet. I think it's much more likely that you'd run out the Teferi there, right? So your Mentor's not going to be countered. And maybe you're even going to draw like a cantrip or something to get some value out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see. I guess everything's online. The basic land is combined with the Astrolabe allows everything to be cast. Well, a treat.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah, that's not what we need. Everyone that's played Miracles before has certainly done that a few times. And, well, with our opponent not having days, running out Teferi sounds okay. There it is.
I think you got a plus here. You don't want to send the Astrolabe back. And also, if you minus, then Icefang Hodl is going to kill it. So, it's not. Well, it's not because you can't have to cast in response, and then you can bounce it, but you also don't want to do that. It's awkward. I guess you plus either way.
Yeah, you don't want to get it. I guess you don't want to get an Abrupt Decay and then not get a card, but maybe you want to draw out an Abrupt Decay so that your Mentor is more likely to resolve. All that is negated by the fact that it just gets Force of Will pitching Icefang Quaddle anyway. So I don't think that Jonathan's probably too disappointed with that, as he made up for his mulligan, I guess, by the Force of Will pitch cast. So,
even like the best draw you could probably find here is something like Brainstorm, so you can trigger the Mentor next turn and also put the Entreat back.
Either that or a source of red mana. That would also be fine.
Oh, yeah. The source of red mana would also be sweet because if the opponent answers the Mentor or tries to answer the Mentor with Oko, then you get to counter the Oko.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't really have a big game plan other than Mentor, so you could either just sit back, but even if you run it out, it's only going to be a 2-2 for now and not do anything else. So I can appreciate just going for it. There's also a world where you wait, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. This is not a very threatening Mentor. Austin has no way of knowing that, but this isn't going to amount to much.
So this is
Quaddle actually is a decent play for Jonatan because now he can actually make a token next turn. I can't even do it this turn because we have Sanctuary. Yeah, there's a lot of awkwardness going on here. Drawing Sanctuary as your turn 1 land, drawing Entreat on turn 2, having Mentor and nothing that you can cast, no red mana.
So from the other side of the board, this actually looks very much as Mentor plus Flusterstorm.
Yes.
But you could still play into Flusterstorm if you have Swords to Plowshares because you can pay for that. But yeah, that's the vibe that I would get, what I would consider here. Or Spell Pierce or something. Okay, let me just. Oh, that's really bad for us now because now the Mentor is gonna be sent back.
Mm-hmm.
And we just gotta let that happen.
Yeah, this is rough. We need a lot. We need red mana. So we can go Mentor. Oh no.
That's like the evil genie who's like, you want red? Oh, I'm gonna give you red. Like, yeah, this is not the kind of red I want. I want Brainstorm.
Okay, so certainly Austin's looking okay here, but this is not a deck that finishes quickly without its having access to either Uro or Oko. So either one of those is probably the best play for the turn. We'll see what develops. but certainly looking very safe for the moment.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of awkward stuff he could draw. For example, if he draws if you draw Isochron Scepter, that doesn't even work under Teferi. So,
oh, that's true.
We're probably really gonna need a brainstorm into something, because right now almost our entire hand doesn't do anything. Like, our hand doesn't do anything, right? You're not gonna send the Swords to Plowshares at the Kotal.
Mm-mm. Yeah, we're looking. This looks, boy. This is nothing good. I mean, yeah, you're right. Brainstorm. We need to clean up our hand entirely. Oh no. Well, there's one of those blue-green cards. So now there's actually going to be a clock, a real one.
There's even a world where you turn your Kotal into a 3/3 and attack there, because Death Touch is probably not going to be too relevant.
Yeah, that's reasonable also. But yeah, I mean, the advances you 3 damage. I guess you make it up eventually. All right. Well, not anymore, because the red man is drawn. Oko goes down, so yeah, you're right, because now we have a 3/3 attacking at least instead of a 1/1.
So now we got a way to deal with both the planeswalkers that we found the red source. Eventually, like if you could find Brainstorm into a white source, you could make. Actually, we can't make Angels against Teferi. We gotta get rid of Teferi first. Man, that card is causing a lot of trouble for us. And there's Uro.
Yeah.
And we can't even Swords to Plowshares it right now because the Teferi is in play. Otherwise, that would have been a sweet play.
Oh, boy. Yeah, and both players at their starting life total. Yeah, so this Iceman Qual is attacked like 3 times, and Jonathan's still 20. That's just how anemic the offense is here. Now another land, so we can't hardcast Entreat yet, but we can pick off the Teferi.
I guess if you find another white source, we can actually make 2 Angels, and that won't be too horrible.
Yeah. If Austin removed some of the counter magic and that actually resolved, then yeah, that would be okay.
I'd probably be paying like 8 years straight away. Like I'm under no pressure whatsoever. Even if the cards suck, I'm gonna go deeper and eventually gonna find Brainstorm.
Yeah, and it's exactly what happened. 8 life is paid to pick up 2 extra cards on Summon Library. A Brainstorm to get 3 cards deeper, and Jonatan looks like this one's gonna get away from him.
Didn't really have much of a chance. Like he played basically the way his hand dictated him to play. Couldn't really do much else. The deck that's a little bit like lower to the ground, got to use its mana better, and yeah, that's basically what's happening here. Like right now, we're really just waiting for the game to either end or is it Jonathan, the Possibility Storm player, to find a way to turn his hand into spells?
Well, yeah. I mean, we could go. Well, so what we need. Possibility Storm, resolve it, cast Swords, turns into a Terminus, clears the board.
That's a way.
See, so this, yeah, I mean, can we argue that this was a massive punt here, casting the Swords of Plowshares pre-Possibility Storm?
Probably not. There's also a way where he just like randomly finds Terminus here. He's still playing 3 copies, but okay, Narset helps. Narset actually turns off a lot of stuff that the opponent has, while also giving you a way to play the game. You're really, I guess you're actually getting 2 uses out of it, and it prevents the use of the Sylvan Library next turn. You could also make a case for like not using it next turn and making the opponent slowly grind it down, so you get to use the there goes that idea.
Yeah, that's down for the count.
At least we got the 2-for-1 on this. Find the Brainstorm.
Okay.
So maybe there's gonna be Angels in the near future.
I actually don't. I would have preferred to see the Abrupt Decay wait until the end of the turn. So at least let Jonatan make his choice first, because there's no reason to give him information that the Narset is going to die beforehand. And there's
there's not going to be any Veil of Summers, right?
Right. So. Yeah, there's not, and there's not misdirections or anything, so we know it's going to go down.
I was wondering on the last turn whether you actually want to fire off the Brainstorm. I think he brought in like 2 Disenchants. I'm not sure. So you disenchant the Sylvan Library.
I thought of that too, and I feel like I would have. And we definitely have to do it here instead of in face of Leovold coming down. And we're putting back 2 Flood Strands. We don't want to put back Entreat? Okay.
Entreat at least gives you a must counter, right? Next turn.
But if we put the Entreat on top of the deck, we could make twice as many Angels.
I think I guess he's looking for Terminus here. But the problem is like the library grinds you down so hard. So even if you find the Terminus, that's almost like going to hype out your opponent, because then the game goes longer again. Mm-hmm. It's going to be rough. You got to fetch here. Like, you don't want to draw the extra fetch.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it would have taken a while to set it up. Like, we could have gone, oh, okay.
Okay, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Still gives your opponent extra cards, but at least it's a way to get rid of the Leoward.
Yeah.
So next turn we can actually remove Leoward and bounce the Sylvan Library, and that's something, I would guess. Mm-hmm. And then we gotta find our way from there. Then we gotta find a disenchant, maybe, I don't know, something. At least we're like somewhat back in the game, assuming all of this is gonna resolve. There's the Red Blast.
Okay. So Teferi will protect the Red Blast. So this Red Blast is like to resolve unless there's... Yeah, the Red Blast is just going to resolve. 2 Force Wills isn't going to happen here. Well, I guess it could. If you had them, I suppose you'd use them.
Okay, now we got this. So yeah, we want to check out Leoward first, so they don't draw a card of the activated ability of Teferi. And we're also going to draw a card of Teferi. And like I said, disenchant or any other source of card advantage. But to me, like, the most important thing is disenchant. The opponent's still at 16. They can easily take 8 again because we're not presenting any kind of clock.
Yeah.
Looking at Brainstorm once again. Like, if you can find Brainstorm and turn Entreat into another must counter, and that's going to be rough considering we have Teferi. Well, Teferi's going to die here, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we didn't. So we didn't play the Caracas that turn? Maybe we already played a land that turn. I don't think so. But I was wrong earlier today on having a player play a land drop. Because if we played the Caracas, then we could actually play the Entreat off of another drawn white land.
I thought it was the second Misty Sanctuary, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking that was... Oh, so we already know the top card? I'm sorry, yeah, I must have missed that completely. What did we put on top then? Well, I wasn't looking.
We could put up the game log. It should say it in the game log, I guess. Well, but yeah, here's Uro coming down.
We can't put up the game log. That was happening when the players were doing it, because we're looking from the players' perspective.
Oh, you're right. We can't tell them, hey, by the way, do this, do that. This is what we want you to play this way because it would make the game more interesting. Can you please go back and do that? Okay, thank you very much. That's how it works. The perks of being the feature match.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we have all these blue-green Simic cards taking over again.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm really just like looking for like a giant Entreat the Angels that somehow resolves, because other than that, this game is probably not going to end in our favor. Maybe there's like a possibility storm scenario where we Terminus, okay, there's possibility storm, but we can't cast it yet. No. I guess we're going to set that away.
Yeah. So yeah, I would like to see the Caracas come down last turn, but okay, it comes down this turn. Yeah, I don't see realistic ways to get out of this here. I am really surprised that Jonatan kept this Entreat the Angels in his hand. Like, I know that like having another fetch land didn't look very appealing at the time, but Entreat's a card that's a lot of times more valuable in the deck than in your hand. But okay, this is where we're at.
So that's the Brainstorm. At this point, if you're the opponent, you're just wondering, how do I actually lose the game?
Right.
And you're just like trying to pick up a couple of like hard counters, or maybe even add more planeswalkers to the board so you can survive a Terminus pretty well. And other than like, he's on 5. You really gotta like fade one turn, and now that you have Chase, you can just like +2. I think I would have just there. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chase is great at fading miracles and any other side of game turning nonsense with the Fate Seal ability here. And yeah, it's a land. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. We can make 2 tokens.
2 Angels.
Yeah.
And that's not even going to do it, right? Because then the Chase bounces one of them, and we have like 4 attackers, and the smallest ones. Yeah, that's not going to do it.
Yeah. Chase can take out 1. Oak can animate Arkham's Astrolabe, and we still have a lethal attack set up. So that looks like it's going to be the end of Jonatan's Scepter deck in round 3. Okay.
Wait, what? Did I miss something? I guess this is still lethal. Oh, because those are snow creatures. Yeah, so they get to survive. I see. Because Dead of Winter doesn't kill snow creatures. Yeah.
Okay.
Smart, I like it.
That worked out just fine. Yeah, they get to save the Rainstorm and the Jace or something else. or save the Jace for something else, and that ends it. So Austin moves up to 3-0. Great start. And still, Icecrown Scepter Possibility Storm deck 2-1. And, still plenty live in the event, which is...
playing 7 rounds today, so if he wins out, he's still going to make it, right?
Oh, yeah, easily. Yeah, he might even be able to pick up a loss somewhere else later on. Anyway, that was our second match for round 3. Wait, that was round 3, right?
Yeah.
I knew I was going to do this. That was round 3. The addition of the backup matches is going to throw off my round counting mentally. But anyway, so that's conclusion of round 3. We'll be back. I don't know if I can promise that we'll have more wild decks than this round where we had Doomsday and Icecrown Possibility Storm, but we can hope. So we are moving through the event here. We'll take a commercial break. We'll be right back for round 4.